Test, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Good evening, and welcome to the Revere Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, April 23rd. Could we please rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members. Mr. Lemonna? Here. Mr. Lopes? Here. Mr. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Pelton? Here. Ms. Pratt, alternate member, is absent. And Chairman Tucker?
Here.
Here, quorum is present. First item on the agenda is application A2507, John Duran, 59 Howard Street, Revere, Mass., requesting a variance of Revere Revised Zoning Ordinances, Section 17-24010, rear yard deck setback for decks to enable the appellant to construct a 12.5-foot by 19-foot deck at 24 Shirtlift Street.
Is the applicant present? Any representatives present? Yes. Are you the applicant?
Yes, I am.
Please step up to the microphone, press the button so that the microphone comes on. Right at the bottom, there's a button there.
Okay.
Okay, you're online. Keep it on.
Yep.
There you go.
All right.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is John Duran. I'm the general contractor for 24 Chile Street. I'm applying to get a variance for a rear deck, which is sufficient yard.
Okay. Just so, the plans are not to our specifications, so if we were to approve this, you'd have to get the plot plan done to our specifications,
Yes, sir.
okay? It's just that it has to have zoning and all of that on it.
No problem.
Okay, seeing that this is a public hearing, are there any proponents? Anyone in favor? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Okay. Members, wish to speak? I did not get any calls from the ward councilor or any opposition or proponents. So what's the wish of the members? That if we were to vote on this, he has to do the plans according to our specifications before they would be able to approve it. So there's a motion to approve pending him doing the plans to our specifications and our standard order of conditions.
Standard conditions are as follows. If the rights authorized by this variance are not exercised within 1 year of the date of the grant of this variance, the right shall lapse. This variance shall not be valid until the appellant has recorded this variance and plan in the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds and submits recording numbers and dates to the city clerk and building inspector of the city of Revere. The appellant must receive site plan review approval prior to applying for a building permit, and the site plan shall be the site plan shall be done in accordance with the specifications of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Shall the Zoning Board of Appeals grant the relief requested subject to those conditions? Mr. Lemonna?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Lopes?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. O'Brien? Yes. Mr. Pelton? Yes, and Chairman Tucker?
Yes.
Yes, the variance has been granted, subject to those conditions.
So I suggest whoever did your drawing, Alexander, have them go on Revere.org, look up the zoning board of appeals. There are detailed instructions on what he has to do for the plan. If that's not done, then you won't get anything.
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. That's the next item number anyways, right? No. Well, wait a minute, what's the last one? Why don't we take that up now, and then we can deal with the one in the middle.
Next application is going to be A2509, Andrew Pedra, 150 Speen Street, Framingham, Mass., requesting a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals to enable the appellant to expand an existing non-conforming single-family dwelling by constructing a second-story addition at 90 Gage Ave.
Good evening. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Andrew Piedra, and this is for 90 Gage Ave, Revere, but my address is 100 Russell Road, Framingham.
Okay, do you wish to add anything, or the plan speaks for itself?
For the most part, the plan speaks for itself. We're doing a second-story addition over part of this home, to create more living space above, more bedroom space, added bathroom, also a loft area above that in the third story. It's going to be a nice view of, of everything. So just creating more living space for a single-family home.
Okay. Seeing that this is a public hearing, I'll ask if there's any proponents, anyone in favor. If you're in favor, please step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
It's my house, so I'm not sure. Okay. Sure. Lucas Villado, 90 Gage Ave, or 86 on the door. I'm a proponent.
Okay. Are there any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any members wish to speak? I did not receive anything from the ward councilor in. There's a motion to approve. Roll call, please, with our standard conditions.
The standard conditions would be as follows for a special permit. If the rights authorized by this special permit are not exercised within 2 years of the date of the grant of this special permit, the rights shall lapse. This special permit shall not be valid until the appellant has recorded this variance and plan in the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds and submits document recording numbers and dates to the city clerk and building inspector of the city of Revere. And the appellant must receive site plan review approval prior to applying for a building permit. Shall the Zoning Board of Appeals grant the special permit subject to those conditions? Mr. Lemonna? Yes. Mr. Lopes? Yes. Mr. O'Brien? Yes. Mr. Pelton? Yes, and Chairman Tucker?
Yes.
Yes, the special permit has been granted, subject to those conditions.
Thank you.
You just have to wait until you get a letter from the clerk's office.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Next application is A2508, Amar and Brothers LLC, care of D'Ambrosio LLP, 14 Proctor Ave, Revere, Mass., requesting variances of the Revere revised zoning ordinances to enable the appellant to construct a 31-unit apartment building within the neighborhood business district at 140 Beach Street.
Good evening. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Attorney Jerry D'Ambrosio, 14 Proctor Avenue, Revere, Massachusetts. I've submitted a motion to the board, but I'd like to give some background on it first. We're asking that the petition be withdrawn. And I think that once I explain the background of this matter, you'll understand why. This is a particularly interesting piece of property. It's the old Little Peach site in Revere, Massachusetts. It's of particular interest to me because I grew up right around the corner from this site. I grew up on Taft Street. I used to walk by it almost every day, and I used to buy candy and snacks there every day. So it had a particular interest to me. In August of last year, as many of you know, the building was on the market for sale. It had been converted from a Little Peach to another variety store to finally a 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven was closing down a number of stores throughout the East Coast, and they had designated to close this one as well. Except that in closing it, they made clear to any potential buyers that there'd be a deed restriction in the chain of title. No convenience store could be allowed there, again, running into the future. So it's important to understand that this particular parcel, as it's currently encumbered by the previous owners, does not allow for any kind of Little Peach, 7-Eleven, or convenience store. It's unfortunate, sad, but that was a restriction that was put in place by the previous owners. At the same time, the property was marketed with a number of realtors, and there were a number of inquiries. I actually got a couple of calls. I got a call from one particular person who was banking on the city council allowing for recreational marijuana in the city of Revere. Banking on that, they wanted to potentially explore the purchase and the creation of a recreational marijuana dispensary there. To be quite frank, I don't represent recreational marijuana dispensaries, and so I declined. I did not take that representation. The matter moved on at that point. For whatever reason, that person didn't buy the property. I can tell you that another medical use facility looked at the property as well and contacted me. They wanted to consider a transitional use facility, as many are being planned in not only this city, but the adjoining cities. What I told these folks was, no, it's probably not the right spot for it. This is a community area. It should be kept that way in the long run and be really cognizant of what the neighbors want. And they said, how could I be so sure of that? Well, I said to them that I've represented others in the city of Revere that have come in with this idea, and it works in places and it doesn't work in others. And I suggested it wouldn't work here at the old Little Peach site. Well, they took my advice and ultimately didn't buy the parcel. Then in August of last year, I did get a call from a developer in Boston, a builder, who said, you know, we're interested in the site, and we'd, because of its close proximity to the Beachmont train station, we'd like to consider a site that will bring absolutely no congestion to the area because we're going to not allow cars, and to build an appropriate building that will allow for smaller units to help alleviate the housing crisis. And what they meant by smaller units were one bedroom, geared for young adults who work in town and are going to take the MBTA. In other words, they're going to hop on that train, that bus, drive up the street to Beachmont, get onto that train station, and drive into Boston. No cars, no parking. That was the idea. I said, you know, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea not only for Revere or Everett or Malden or Boston or Quincy. It's a good idea, period, given where we are today in the state of Massachusetts with our housing crisis. But this was an especially good client because this client wanted to work with the community. And so what this client instructed me to do is to first reach out to City Hall and to talk to the powers that be in City Hall and see if they'd be open to the idea. And they said, sure, we'd be open to the idea, but let's have a community meeting. To which we responded, absolutely. Now, mind you, this is back in October of 2024. We're almost six months ago now, 7 months ago. So that's when the initial talks began. Soon after my talks with City Hall, we went out and talked to the ward councilor. And the ward councilor said, well, Jerry, you know, we've got to talk. I don't want something that's too big or too burdensome. I'd like to have a community meeting. So we said, absolutely, let's work with the community. So we noticed the community meeting for the middle of November. We publicized it. We mailed out letters. We asked the clerk's office to issue the addresses. And again, if
anybody is going to speak out in the audience, you will be asked to leave. So please be quiet. Everyone will have the opportunity to speak, but if you speak out, you will be asked to leave the chamber.
So the reason I offer this is because I'm explaining why we're going to withdraw this motion today. That meeting was done in November. We only had 2 people that came, only 2. That being said, we continued to work with the 2 people that came, the city councilor. We significantly changed those plans. We changed them in significant ways. We made the building smaller, less units. We accommodated one of the neighbors, as the current building is on her property line. We try to push it over. We did a number of things. It took several months to do, and at a great cost. So that being said, we filed the petition, and then last week we heard that there was neighborhood opposition to it. And so, again, we stand here before you saying that we are willing to work with the neighbors. We are willing to have a community meeting. We're hoping more people attend the community meeting. Now, I don't know why people didn't know about it. I don't know why. Maybe it was a busy time of year. Maybe they didn't see it on a website. Maybe they were outside of the 300-foot ratio that the clerk's office mails to. There could be many, many reasons that only 2 people showed up. And because it's just the opposite. My client wants many people to show up because we want to be collaborative and we want to work with the neighborhood to get input on an idea that will go here. Look, the reality is this is a valuable piece of property that can be used for things that don't require permits or don't require zoning relief. And that being said, right, it's not a question of is something going to go there, because something is going to go there. It's a question of trying to find something that's a good fit for everyone. And so we have a motion to withdraw the current project before you with the caveat that we're going to withdraw. We're going to work with the ward council and city hall. We're going to publicize another meeting, and we're hoping that people will come and listen to what the project is and then get input and then make some changes again, right? I have a client that's already made one set of changes. I'm sure he's going to be happy to make more changes. But at the same time, we'd like to get everybody on board and have people participate in the process. And I think that given the turnout today, given what I've heard from Councilor McKenna, that people will be more involved next time around. And I hope they are. We really want them to be involved. So that being said, I'm asking that this project be withdrawn, and it'll be refiled down the road when we get community input on what they would like to see there, size, scope, and issues like that. And that may take a few months, to be quite frank, because we need to do the meeting and then change plans again. So based on that, I'm respectfully requesting that this board allow us to withdraw our project plans. Mind you, if the board decides not to, if people want to object to that, then at that point, the property is still buildable, but for other things that maybe people don't want, that don't require this honorable board's approval. So again, it's about working with the community, and that's what we're offering. We hope people recognize that in good faith, because that's why I'm here. This is a good faith gesture to do that. Thank you.
Counselor, good evening.
Good evening, Councilor McKenna, Ward 1.
Well, we're going to, I have to ask for proponents.
Oh,
So is there anyone in favor?
In favor of what, the withdrawal?
Nope, in favor of the project itself. Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side hearing. Any opponents? If you're going to oppose, we could do it by a raise of hands, or if you're going to go up and speak, you're limited to the 3 minutes, and it has to be for just this. It can't be talking about anything else. It's just strictly with what we're dealing with tonight. So if we'll do a raise of hands, 1, 41, 42, 43 altogether. Now, if people are going to get up and speak, the first ward councilor will speak, and then if you just stand behind the speakers, you state your name and address for the record, and you will have the 3 minutes time frame. Good evening, Councilor.
good evening. So I would like to clarify a couple of things. First of all, something has to be built there. Second of all, we did have a community meeting in November and only 2 people showed up. I don't know what the range was to contact people, but I know that in the last couple of weeks when this came out, I've gotten a number of calls and emails. I've talked to people, and everybody was against it. And I was too, frankly, because I thought it was too big for the area. It would have suffocated that whole corner. But what I've learned from the people that I've talked to is, and I didn't even realize it because I live in Beachmont, this is a historical center. It's a historical intersection. And what they would like to see, if whatever is built there, is something more historical than modern to go with the community. The other thing I would like to say is that I will personally put something up on Facebook and have people give a couple of dates out for people to want to have a neighborhood meeting, not a community meeting, a neighborhood meeting, where you can come up and we can get together, whether if it's up here or somewhere down near Immaculate Conception, and get your input of what should be there. But something's going to go there, and it's up to you to tell us what you would like to see there. So I don't know if you guys are on my Facebook page, but I will definitely set something up where we can have a couple of dates of the neighborhood come together, not the community, the neighborhood. The neighborhoods come together and have their input on what they would like to see there. Thank you very much.
Okay, just to clarify, you're not coming up to this microphone to tell me what you'd like there.
No.
You do that at your public meeting. What's here tonight is based on the application that's in front of us. Just so we can stay on track, it has to do with the application. Thank you. Good evening. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Corey O'Hara, 270 Beach Street. Before I start, I just wanted to know if you guys have the zoning board application that was submitted by Amar Brothers in front of you, because I will be referencing that.
Yes.
Okay. So I understand the developers have requested to withdraw their application without prejudice, which would allow them to resubmit the same or a similar proposal in the future. Despite this, I believe there's an important to address some procedural oversights that have occurred up to this point. Firstly, I noted the Zoning Board of Appeals received a copy of the deed, which I will be referring to moving forward. I will be referring to the restrictive covenant in a minute that Attorney D'Ambrosio mentioned. But firstly, I want to note that in 2024, a hazardous substances clause was added to that deed, waiving all liabilities from the seller. This raises a question: have any environmental assessments been required or conducted on this site? I spoke with members from Site Plan Review, the Building Department, and Revere Fire. None have seen an environmental assessment for this site. However, under Massachusetts regulations, particularly the Oil and Hazardous Material Release Prevention and Response Act, developers converting properties to residential use, especially those with hazardous substances clauses in their deeds, are typically required to conduct environmental assessments, such as a Phase 1 environmental assessments during site plan review process. I urge the board to require a disclosure of any environmental reports or an official statement confirming that none exist or no suspected contaminants are on this site before considering any future proposals. Next, I want to highlight a significant restrictive covenant entered into the deed in 2024. Were you aware of this restricted covenant? Did the building inspector inform you of this restricted covenant? Because this restricted covenant conflicts with our existing zoning ordinances. In 2024, this restricted covenant banned any food, beverage, or fuel sales, the exact kinds of shops that this neighborhood business zoning is supposed to support. So what we're doing here is we're allowing these developers to come in and tell us what we can do with these neighborhoods that we specifically zoned for convenience. So this neighborhood business zone that we said would provide convenience to our neighborhoods, this covenant comes in by the way of the deed, and it says to us, we no longer can put food, grocery, or gasoline here, and we can only now put residential. That takes away the original use of this land that was put forth by the zoning codes. We're allowing these developers to tell us what we can do with our land now. That goes over
Can
your...
I cut you short? It's not the developer, the person that sold the property.
Okay, but that's...
The owner
that I'm-
put that
I understand that, but-
we cannot deny that.
No,
Has
but that
nothing to
may have
do with
been
the
done
Board of Appeals.
unlawfully. That may have been done unlawfully. And that's one of the things I'm asking you to do before you close this hearing today. I'm asking you to have this legally reviewed. Because when something's put in, such as a neighborhood business zoning, that's done in public interest. That's done for us, to provide convenience for us. And when someone puts in a deed that says, oh no, you can no longer use this land to provide convenience to these neighborhoods, that might have been done unlawfully because it's circumventing our zoning codes by way of the deed. And I believe that was done unlawfully. There have been cases where courts have removed that from the deed because it circumvents our zoning laws in this city.
Okay, that's not something we can take
No,
up
it
here,
is.
but it is.
It is. It is.
It's not something we can take up.
No, it's something, what you can do though, is you can say no to this withdrawal and keep this case open while someone reviews that deed to whether that's lawful for them to do. Because they can't circumvent our zoning laws to say now only residential property can go here. Because we say that no groceries, gasoline, or food products can be sold here any longer, which eliminates neighborhood business zoning in itself.
Not totally, but yes, you're right. there.
Right. Originally, you could have put a mixed-use property there,
Okay,
not
I
100%.
don't want you to take up all your
Right.
time, but
Originally,
okay.
you could have put a mixed-use property there, not 100% residential. That really
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have been an option, but by way of the deed and the language that they put in there via the restrictive covenant, that's how they were able to get the residential usage in there. So someone who's just by way of that language. Anyway, the other thing I would like to ask for is to get the environmental reports, because it's suspicious that they added hazardous substances clauses into that deed as well. I went back to look for previous deeds and there was no hazardous substance languages in there. This is something that is all being broken down. There's no, like, between the lack of oversight and the checks and balances that site plan review and the building inspector is supposed to provide before it gets to this board, they're supposed to alert you of this language that's in the deed. That's my concern, is there's a breakdown in the oversight and the checks and balances in this process, and that's how this has gotten to this point. There's restrictive covenant language, there's hazardous substances language in these deeds. And the other part of this application that's concerning is there was hardship language, financial hardship language that was put in here by the attorney that was also used in another application for 100 Revere Street. That's saying that these developers are gonna be put under some kind of hardship if you don't approve these applications for them. But they're putting themselves under this hardship by asking for these variances on these small parcels of land where these residential properties don't belong in the first place. There is no financial hardship that they will be under. This is a strategy now that these law firms and these attorneys are using to persuade you to approve these variances. This is now a strategy that they're using. This isn't, in fact, financial hardship. So these are the points that I'm asking. What I'm asking you to do is vote no on this motion to withdraw, keep this hearing open until these matters are resolved. The first matter would be a legal review of this unlawful, what I believe is unlawful restrictive covenant that is gonna overrule your authority to change our zoning via the deed that I believe is wrong. They shouldn't be able to tell us what we can do with our land. And the other is to require that environmental report, whether there's a substance or not, could just be lead paint. Why would they put that hazardous substances clause in that deed? It's very curious. And the other thing is to have more oversight and checks and balances over these permits and these requests, because they're using these terms that financial hardship is really just a strategy to get these variances approved. And I just
I don't
think that-
disagree with you with
Yeah.
that, but they do have the right to put that.
But
They do, everybody does it.
I
Yes.
understand that, but sorry, I want to say one more thing before I sit down, because I just believe it's important. They referred to a specific case in 2 different properties. And they used the specific case.
They all do that.
I understand that, but it's not a unique hardship anymore then. It's no longer a unique hardship.
I'm not disagreeing with
Right.
you on that.
So it's not a real constraint. It's then becomes a legal strategy. They're no longer working for the city. They're working for the developers so that they can make a profit. It's not right. There needs to be more oversight over these projects. They're taking our city and they're doing what they want with it. It's not right. And we owe it to our neighborhood and our city to expose these deed provisions before they exploit this process any further. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if you could please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
James Caramello, 11 Eaton Street. I'm a retired firefighter. I'm a member of the Public Employee Committee. I'm also a representative for the Revere retirees, but I am not here on their behalf. I'm here as a resident. I'm getting a little sick and tired of every time a building goes up, we're talking about new age millennials that don't drive. Please, come on. People drive. Whether it's the new Suffolk Downs project, there's not gonna be any people driving there, they're not gonna own cars, well, what you put up a traffic light for, okay? This is getting a little ridiculous. There's gridlock in this city. You have a school and a church right adjacent to this construction site. And I also take offense at the esteemed attorney who scares the people at this meeting into thinking that something could go there that we don't want. Isn't any project that goes there going to come under your jurisdiction for your approval?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Well, isn't there any project there that would have to have some sort of community notification so there could be some feedback or some pushback?
There are some that go as a matter of right with the governments, with the governments.
Well, as Mrs. LaSalle said and very well stated, you know, this board has some work to do, and I hope you do your due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Sally Brzezowski, 176 Beach Street. As a neighbor who lives on Beach Street, I strongly oppose the request for variances. A building of this size in such a small space would dramatically and negatively affect our neighborhood. The design and size are simply not consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. I laughed when I saw that in the proposal. And it will set an expectation of tall, managed buildings in what is currently a cozy and quiet neighborhood. I'm especially concerned about the notification process and the lack of notification. We received the notice of being able to oppose this on a Friday, and we had until Tuesday at 4 to oppose, which was very little time. And I had come to City Hall multiple times asking about the development because I did see papers going up, for sale signs coming down, everything. And every time I was told there's nothing on file, there's nothing on file. I've been stopping by monthly this whole year and no one could find anything that was happening there. So then all of a sudden to be 2 business days was very alarming. I think other folks here are also very concerned about the notifications and how people in the neighborhood can get involved, not just here, but in other developments on our street, because we do want to see responsible construction and growth and revitalization of our neighborhoods, but not with 2 business days turnaround for us to actually participate. I am also especially concerned about the idea of 31 or more new neighbors not being legally allowed to park their car on nearby streets, because we all know if they can't park legally, they're just going to park illegally. It's already impossible to park on weekends with the churchgoers and on weekdays with people dropping their kids off from school who are currently parking in the 7-Eleven lot to drop their kids off. Actually, the city of Revere is currently parking in that lot. The Parks and Rec vehicle is parked there right now and has been for most days since the building closed. They don't even want to park on the street. And when people do park on the street illegally, they're not ticketed, they're not towed, even when they're blocking the intersection. And I know because I often call in violations because I'm worried about my neighbors getting hit by cars because people can't see them on the crosswalks or because the fire hydrants are blocked. I am an elder millennial, and we do own cars. Everyone in the neighborhood does. If you walk around, you can see they all have 2 or more cars in the driveway for the most part. And we have to, because the sidewalks to the T are not shoveled. The MBTA buses are not reliable. We're a car community, whether we like it or not. I would challenge if anyone here arrived here via only public transit today. And I think we're just setting up a system that's unsustainable. These restrictions were put in place for a reason. And
I just have one question.
Yeah.
You're not within the party of interest, so you did not.
I am. I'm at 176 Beach Street.
You wouldn't have gotten a notice.
I live 4 doors down, 176 Beach. Yeah, I'm marrying him in 45 days.
You didn't put it?
But I'm in a butter. Our renters, not voters and residents, because these
No.
people are all going to be renters.
It's only it's a butters to a butters, 300 feet, so I don't know how you got a notice.
Well, I'm glad we did, because I feel
Yeah.
like this is my neighborhood. I walk past it about 50 times a week on my daily walk,
Okay.
so
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
It wasn't a notice.
we're on the list of abutters. 176 Beach is on the list of abutters
Alrighty,
that were provided in the back of the packet. I'm
Thank
just not
you.
listed on there because I'm a renter.
alrighty. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but bottom line, this project is too big for this space. It does not fit in with the community, and these variances that the city put in place are there for a reason and should stand. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good one. Hi,
Hi, my
name and
name's
address for the record, please.
Mary Jane Bruno, and I'm at 32 Library Street. This is the notice that she received. Myself and one of my neighbors made this notice out and passed it 200 notices about this.
Okay, it wasn't from the city. I'm saying they don't
If
mail
you
it
wanna
out.
look at
No, it's very good, but they don't mail it out. It wasn't mailed out from us. You received it from the city?
Okay, so I was confused with the name, because, I'm sorry.
All right,
It was Mr. Fano.
okay.
This was something that I personally did with somebody else in the neighborhood,
right.
so people would be aware. Because I never saw anything in the Revere Journal about this meeting. And I actually went down there and asked them for a copy of it, and she could not provide that because she couldn't find it. And I don't go on Facebook that often, so that was why I'm sure that people didn't know about the previous meeting where only 2 people showed up. But, so I made this notice out and passed it out
Thank you.
with somebody else. So, first of all, I feel like a building like that does not fit in this neighborhood. This is a real residential neighborhood. We have the school, the church, the park. Nobody wants a building like that. That building's going to be, if they do 31 units, 4 feet higher than the 3-story building that's a 3-story dwelling that's one place behind where the building is going to be put. It doesn't belong there. It's going to look terrible. It's not even going to fit in with the neighborhood. And I was told that all those people are going to have to sign that they are not going to have a car. That's ridiculous. You can register your car. I went to the parking department and asked them, you can register that car anyways. Well, you can't park overnight. go across the street and park in the church parking lot. Who's going to police that? Nobody. So they are going to have cars. You can't tell me anything different from that. And the other thing is, are these tenants going to be vetted for criminal activity or whatever? Because they're 500 feet from the school that's diagonally across
You're bringing
from
up good points, but it has nothing to do with the Board of Appeals. But that's a good point that you can bring to your meeting, when they have a
Okay.
meeting.
Well, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Ed Terrell, 70 School Street, Revere, Mass. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I run the blog Revere Scanner, which is now RS. I get up to 4 million views in a month. And I can tell you that this is the wrong project for this area. This is my neighborhood. Now, every time the public comes up here and asks for something reasonable, developers come to us and make threats. It's not very nice. So, you know, if people want to play hardball, we can play hardball. Okay? We can remove every single one of you from your seats if you do not represent the community and the neighborhood. You will be gone. To the city council, we can vote you out. It is an election year. Many of them my friends, but enough is enough is enough. Maura Healy is going to be up for a re-election. She can go too. We are at a breaking point in this city. People can barely afford groceries. And we are asking for some help, partnerships. And we are not getting it. Now, you can understand the frustration in my voice because I hear their voices and I'm just telling you what I hear.
The key thing is, they should be here to speak. That's
I
not
underst-
happening.
I understand that. There's a great.
So don't go making your subtle threats that we can be out of here and councils
It's
can
not
be
a threat.
changed.
You can
They
all be
have
removed.
we're not hearing it.
I don't know.
I just want to make that point to
I
you.
understand that. And it's true, there is a degree of apathy in the city. But people are being threatened in the city. I've been threatened. I reported on an alleged stabbing at the high school. And my name was broadcast across the airways. And I was potentially, they wanted to potentially charge me criminally.
Okay, Ed, you have good points, but that's not part of this
So what
tonight,
I'm saying is that, what I'm trying to say is that City Hall is treating us as the enemy. Developers are treating us as the enemy. We are not the enemy. We just want a reasonable situation. Work with us. That's all we're asking. But to come up here and say blah, 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 it's not going to work because we're done. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. Anyone else? Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Marie Alessi, and I live at 30 Pleasant Street, which means I'm not in a butter, but I'm in this neighborhood. And maybe the first point I want to make is the fact that I was never notified officially about this meeting or any other meeting of what was happening down there at that intersection. However, when there is a fall festival, I get flyers. When there is Christmas festival, I get a flyer. But I wasn't notified about this. And this impacts us directly, not for one day, but for the rest of our lives here in the city, which I hope is going to happen. But, so the 300 feet or yards or whatever that is, I'm not sure exactly what you said, 300 feet.
Abutters to abutters, 300
Okay.
feet.
It seems to me to be a very small distance, and in this case especially, since all of us in this area go through that intersection, if you're working, or you're going to Market Basket, or you're going to Beachmont Station, or any place else, you go through that intersection several times a day. We have a lot of one-way streets here, so you have to follow down there to that intersection. And there are times when it is extremely busy. which is my second point. Right down there, we have a church. We have a playground. We have a K through 8 school, actually early childhood through 8 school. We have the youth center. There's the library. There are 2 more churches in that area. So we have an extremely busy area.
Okay, I'm not trying to cut you short, but you speak your opposition. There's other people that want to speak.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
thank you.
So my point is, we already experience density here, huge amounts of density at specific times especially, and we have a lot of traffic going through that particular intersection. I don't think a 31-unit building is appropriate at all in that place. I would much rather, and I'm sure other people would much rather get together and talk about things that we would like to see there instead of the 31-unit building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bob Alessi, 30 Pleasant Street, right across the street from this. I've heard a lot tonight. One thing that has not been brought up, I understand that no cars would be causing a problem in this particular area. The residents will not have cars. I understand. I hope it's correct. However, no one has brought up the point that these residents will have friends. And of course, friends will visit. And if they visit on weekends, all chaos will be in the city. No one will be able to work around it. So I suggest this request be denied. Thank you.
Any other opponents? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. What is the will of the members?
I got a question, young lady. She made very good points on the change of land on the deed. I think that's something maybe you guys can get together with Frank Stringy and the city attorney, because that's something beyond our control.
Yeah, even if they sell the land, that follows the deed. So
Okay, if you're going to speak, you have to come up to the microphone, but
yeah, even if these current owners now sell the land, that follows the deed forever. That is in the deed forever. So, that basically tells us that they don't ever plan to put any convenience there for the community ever again. We are running out of commercial space in the city, so that takes away the opportunity for small businesses, future entrepreneurs that want to come into our cities. We already heard from the attorney, he turned away medical
I'm not trying to cut
businesses
you
and
short,
everything.
but
But, this is just the facts.
that would be a site plan review.
But the purpose is here, if you guys take this withdrawal today, we can't talk about this piece of property in the deed again. That's why I'm asking you to deny the withdrawal and keep this
You
hearing open.
most definitely
No, sure
can
you
talk
could,
about
sure
it.
you could.
No, no,
Sure
no.
you could.
No. But if you allow this, if you accept the withdrawal, then they can come in with a new proposal, and the same restrictive covenant will apply. This restrictive covenant may have been added to the deed unlawfully because it circumvents.
But you brought that to the attention so that
But
could be
what
looked at.
It should have happened within due process between the building inspector, site plan review, should have been flagged, brought to your attention, and it should have never gotten to this point in the first place. So there's a lack of oversight over this process in general, including the fact that there's a hazardous substances clause that was added to this property. Has yet to date been a report, environmental report, seen by anyone. So there's another reason why this should be not withdrawn, because we should see an environmental report as well before any.
You're asking these questions, that could be part of a new packet. If they were to come in here, they'd have to answer those questions.
No, but the
Yes.
You brought
problem.
it to our attention, it's not gonna die now.
Right, but a new future proposal should not be brought until these questions are answered.
Well, it has
which
to go
me-
through site plan again.
Then that's
to
gonna be,
change. That's
it
when you
will
bring
have
it
to go
up.
through
Right,
site plan.
okay,
So if
but
you bring that to the attention
what
of
I
site
would-
plan, it's gonna have to be
What I
done.
would like to hear from you today then is that, I worked for the city of Revere for 8 years. One of the things I constantly heard was checks and balances. this shows to me that there was a breakdown in that process somewhere. The other thing is that the regurgitation of financial hardship by, Mr. D'Ambrosio.
They all say that, so
right,
that's not,
which becomes a strategy.
if that's what you're stating,
But
it could be. but-
if you all,
Do we
and
take
no-
that into consideration? It's up to us, what we take into
right,
consideration.
and I
We
respectfully
do not
ask
have
you
to take what's in consideration by what they present.
right, but variances are being passed through considering financial hardship, am I wrong?
Not,
Very seldom.
no,
I don't remember any.
No.
I've been here 5, 6
There
years.
was one on Revere Street quite recently that used the exact same language
yeah,
that
but
is
that
being
wasn't,
used
the-
here.
that wasn't,
They didn't ask for
many,
variance?
they could have asked for that, but that's not the consideration.
Okay.
There's many other things
I'm-
in that packet.
Okay. Well,
Alrighty?
yes, but I just want to make sure that when these processes are going through, especially in this case, where our zoning codes are being circumvented by language that is being placed in a deed that is overriding our public interest and your authority, really.
It's not our authority,
Well,
but
the
I'm not
building
gonna get into a
inspector's authority,
dissertation. It's
then.
the site plan review, the building inspector, but
Right, they should have flagged
your
it.
points have been raised. and well
Okay.
said.
I just hope that these are resolved before they. So basically, what I'm saying is this restrictive covenant should be legally reviewed because there should not be a residential property put here per our zoning code. It should only be a commercial property that provides convenience to the neighborhood per neighborhood business zoning ordinance that we have.
Okay, you
in
brought your
Revere.
point across greatly. but-
And I'm worried that if this hearing gets closed, that the new proposal is again gonna circumvent our zoning laws. Thank you.
We already have it's already been asked of the council, what is the will of the council? There is a motion to withdraw without prejudice.
So there are good points brought up, and I'd be happy to address them. It's important to note that apartment housing use is allowed in this district. So this is not a commercial district. Apartment house use is allowed.
Jerry, I don't want to get into a dissertation, so.
No, but I just want to state what the law is. It's an allowed
It
use.
is allowed use.
Our first set of plans had a small variety store on the first floor. We were willing to challenge the easement for the neighbors. That first meeting, the two neighbors that came said they didn't want a variety store because of the traffic it brings. And so because of the traffic that it brings, and it does, a 7-Eleven or a sub shop or any other kind of variety store will bring more traffic than these small units. They wanted the variety store gone. That being said, if neighbors want it there and they want someone to challenge it, we had offered to do that the first time around, and it's something we can talk about. We're happy.
All right, we're not going to get back and forth. If you're going to have a public meeting, if there's going to be a meeting, you can do that with the.
So we'd be
the
happy to
attorney.
hear that.
Happy
if
to
they
hear it.
want to that. The second issue about the contamination. The great thing about redevelopment in the city of Revere is that you cannot redevelop contaminated property. And that's done at site plan review. It's done after the approval. So what happens is the soil is tested, and if it comes back dirty, it has to be cleaned as a matter of law. You just saw that on Broadway at the old Bruno Funeral Home. That used to be a gas station, right? 50 years ago. I didn't even remember it as a gas station. Well, they left 2 underground tanks full of fuel that had been leaking into the ground for the last 50 years, and no one knew about it. It was contaminating all the water of all the homes around it. And it wasn't until the new developer who came in, built it, tested the soil, found that the soil was filthy dirty, and then cleaned it, remediated it. So if that new project hadn't gone, you'd still have dirty soil leaking oil into the ground. So that kind of language in the easement is pretty standard. Anytime it goes from any kind of retail use to commercial use, the old owner wants to be absolved of any liability. but it doesn't relieve the new owner of doing an environmental study, which would have to be done here. And if the environmental study comes back dirty, it has to be cleaned. No bank, no one is lending money on a dirty property site. And as soon as the test comes back negative, then the city would want it cleaned.
That's supposed to be done before variance.
No, no, it's done.
Okay,
No, it's not.
that ends
Yeah,
it?
it's
Is
not.
there a motion on the floor? Okay, the motion on the floor? I'd
But
like a
again, if
roll
I could,
call.
we want to work with the neighborhood. We're happy. We hope people come to this next meeting. Was there not enough notice? Did people not know about it? Was it a busy time of year? We don't know. We want people to come. We want to work with people. We want to hear what you're saying. I think one thing was said, something will be built there. So it's getting of what can be built there that works for everybody. Nothing will be perfect, but we want to work with the neighbors. We really do.
Thank you. Motion on the floor to withdraw without prejudice. Could we have a roll call, please?
Shall the zoning board of appeals allow the appellant to withdraw the application without prejudice? Mr. Lemonna? Yes. Yes, Mr. Lopes? Yes. Mr. O'Brien? Yes, Mr. Pelton? Yes, and Chairman Tucker?
Yes.
Yes, the application has been withdrawn without prejudice.
No further business. Our next meeting will be May 28th at 5 p.m. Thank you and good night.